Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
And also with us is Teacher Dada and Teacher Ricky, who will also be sharing and educating us more on bridging understanding with people with autism. So as you know, the Doobiedoo Ask is a very special book, uh, and it was selected by a panel of judges to make it to the top 10. So Bambi and Olan, would you like to share the experience of being part of Pickoff?
Being part of Pickoff is nothing like we've ever experienced before. It's our first time actually to join a competition, a festival like this. Before, kasi pag nagpo-put out kami ng comic books, it's either under a publisher or we would indie. So it's the first time na may sinali kaming work for something this big, and we're happy and fortunate that we were chosen as one of the official selection. It's been very an emotional ride, particularly because of the topic of our work. Pero the process also, syempre nakakapagod. And in everything, pag pinuhos mo yung pagod at saka yung alam mo doon, talagang ganun yung value ng work. That just shows the value of the value that you put into the work if you put in that much time, that much effort on it. So I think we did our best to polish it as much as we can. Para it's something that, yes, since it's an international festival, it's something that we can be proud of to show that this is what Pinoys are capable of. It's something that hopefully we did that with our work. We did our best, to say the least.
Well, I'm sure in behalf of Comiket and the Pickoff team, we're very, very proud of you and Olan and the work that you did. When during the pitch, when you first heard of it, it was like no questions were asked by the panel. It was all green. Everybody wanted to see this book, see your pitch turn into a actual graphic novel. So
we didn't get that impression though. You have a very good poker face.
Part of the job. Can't show any signs of favoritism or preference, but that was across all of the panel of jury during the pre-selection committee. Fell in love with the pitch. So we're very happy that you're one of the 10 that were selected. But as published authors, this is quite different from the stories you tell. Can you share us more on why you chose this story and why you chose Pickoff to share this story, to publish a story for you?
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, it's super different from what we put out before. Usually we would be telling stories that were in the supernatural or suspense genre. And this is something totally different. So we were very actually nervous when we pitched it because we've never done anything of this kind before. It's many firsts for us. So bakit namin sinali? Because at the time, we had just gone through certain events that we've shown in the book, and na-realize namin some of these things could have been avoided if the people involved had awareness on how to deal with a child or a person on the autism spectrum. So parang we felt the need na kailangan magkaroon pa ng mas maraming understanding ang tao about this condition. And then I heard about Pickoff, and it's an international festival. So it was a light bulb moment for me kasi parang, okay, this is a festival that will have as wide a reach as we can get, I think. So parang let's take the shot and just join this so that yung reach ng message namin, yung aming little campaign of spreading love and understanding and kindness would reach as much people, as much readers, as diverse group of audiences as possible.
Okay, so maybe we should start by sharing with everyone a little sneak peek into the book. I'm sure some already have read the book, but to those who still don't know what Doobiedoo Asks is all about, let's take a sneak peek.
Hi, so bago tayo mag-book reading, I hope you will allow me to talk a little bit about the conceptualization and writing process behind the book. So sa simula, I had a very different version of Doobiedoo Asks in mind. It was only going to be a series of strips. Like, if you see the chapter breaks, the 4-panel strips that usually appear at the end of the chapter now, dapat puro mga ganun lang. Showing the deeds and misdeeds of the boy, Doobiedoo, sort of like Dennis the Menace, showing his deeds and misdeeds. But at the same time, lalagyan ko lang mga infographics, technical medical definitions, and charts, and graphs and stuff, because at the same time, I wanted it to be informative and to have people understand what autism was. So we got an invite from Kickoff to pitch. And then, so ayan na, we went to the Kickoff panel, and then they said, no, please don't turn it into an infographic. We want a comic book. So during the pitching process, I talked about our experiences as a family who have a son who is on the autism spectrum. And Paulo, who is our festival director and subsequently our editor when we were making the comic already, sabi niya, you have a story. There is a story there, and you tell that story in the way that only you can tell it. And then he further suggested to try to make it or pattern it after like a K-drama where the light moments and the heavy moments appear one after the other, like a pattern it after that. So I guess in the end, buti na lang nakinig kami kay Paulo and the rest of the Pick-Off panel, because we have the Doobiedoo Asks, which is what we have now, the comic that we have now. So I usually write my scripts in screenplay format, like this one. This is for Colonel Banahaw. In screenplay format because I can give the artist a bit of direction on how I want the scene to be played out. But at the same time, the artist also has freedom for how he wants to break down the scene page by page and subsequently panel by panel. So I feel mas may creative freedom ang artist, as opposed to if I describe each panel that what the scenes are supposed to be happening. I want comic book writing to be a more collaborative process. However, with Doobiedoo Ask, I was a bit weird, and I did not write it as a screenplay, because at the time that I began writing it, certain events that you see in the book, they had just happened, and I was in an emotional state. So I just, coming from that emotional state, I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote without being systematic about it. And also because I know that Roland had lived through the same thing as I did. So I knew that even without describing it, he would know what I would be saying. Hindi ko na nilagyan ng scene description. In certain areas, there are even some areas where it's just dialogue, it's just people talking. So when he got the script, sabi ni Roland, it's very difficult. Why are you writing it like a novel? Why isn't it like a comic book? And then he was saying he didn't want to make a book that was all talking heads. But in a way, I guess he found it challenging because in the end, he came up with very beautiful visual metaphors, which you see in the comic now. For example, like this. They turned out great. There. So, okay, let's get to the book reading. Let me just set up the particular page. This is a scene from Doobiedoo Asked. And at that moment, it hit me. Dad and I thought we sucked at parenting. I suppose we did. I read all the literature on autism I could get my hands on. I knew he had trouble expressing feelings. I knew that. Yet I failed to listen to my son. I ignored the signs that showed he wasn't all right. Instead, Dad and I believed a person who, whether deliberately or not, tried to manipulate our view of our son. The factor adversely affecting Doobie's behavior was someone who faced us every day. Maybe he was too much of a handful for her. Maybe she was in over her head. She wasn't a trained special education teacher after all. I don't know what her exact reasons were in treating Doobie that way. We have a science fair coming up. I put Doobiedoo in the largest group. So if he bails on the day of the fair, it won't be so noticeable and embarrassing. Or do you think it's better he performs an experiment alone, by himself? No, he'll show up and he'll be fine. And he was fine, thanks entirely to their group leader, who made sure that Doobie and the rest of the group all had roles to play. And really, this was all that Doobie needed. The feeling that he belonged and was part of something. There were other kids too who, despite being told to avoid Doobie, made the effort to reach out to him. Let's go, Doobie. Everything will be all right. Good job on our project. That volcano was the bomb, dude. For these little acts, I am forever grateful to these wonderful kids. The school year had reached the third quarter by then. Dad and I thought it wouldn't be a good idea to transfer schools, nor have him drop out altogether. KGBLC gave online mentorships for some of their students who needed to go out of town. Thinking that Doobie could be treated the same way, Teacher Hazel graciously offered an area in the preschool section where he could quietly do his lessons until the end of the school year. Teacher Hazel was a psychology major, so she understood a PWA's needs. Dad and I thought it was a good compromise. But when I suggested it to Miss Concepcion, so he'd still follow the class schedule and do his lessons, but at the end of the day, he'll submit all of his work to you. No, he doesn't have to do that. If he's staying outside my classroom, then he's not my responsibility anymore. He's Hazel's. I was shocked and rendered speechless. Yes, I'm afraid extreme emotions get me choked up. She was still his advisor. Plus here I was, trying to offer a middle ground that seemed the least aggravating to everyone. This was the final straw. I complained to the school directress, making it clear that the root cause of Doobie's lashing out was the isolation imposed on him by Miss Concepcion. I even threw in the D word, discrimination. What else would you call how Doobie was being singled out? She had a talking to with Miss Concepcion. Embarrassed, Miss Peggy offered to take over as Doobie's advisor for the rest of the school year. I had a sit down with the teachers. Since Teacher Hazel has her hands full with the preschoolers, I'll look after Doobie myself. Thank you very much. We apologize for the trouble. No, please don't apologize. It's the least I can do for you. He shouldn't have been treated that way. Hi there, Miss Piggy. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Apologize to Miss Peggy right away. Ha ha ha, it's fine. It's just a nickname he calls me. I don't mind. I have loved ones on the spectrum too. I know they don't mean anything by it. So, Doobie, I'll be your teacher starting from today. Let's do our best, okay? Okay, Miss Piggy. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed that little preview of Doobiedoo Asks. Thank you.
Okay, so that was a wonderful book reading, and it's very different when you actually hear Bambi tell the story and bring it out to life. Especially, you can't. It's hard to.
I hope it's a better experience though
Of course,
than reading by yourself.
yeah, it actually gives more tone and more color to the mom, especially. it's hard to it's hard to differentiate because it's semi-autobiographical, right? So that was one of the scenes actually that you could see the what Doobiedoo asks is all about, and it's really finding the journey of understanding from misunderstanding to understanding, and that is something that everybody can identify with, bridging that gap between the two, and to share more about autism. So we have our special guests. Bambi, would you like to introduce them?
Yes, so we're very fortunate today to be joined by our resource persons. The first is Danielle Joan Munti, or Teacher Dada. She is a cognitive behavior therapist and an occupational therapy consultant, and also the co-owner of KidSpot Learning and Therapy Center, which is located at room 202, Maria Adela Building, Aguila Avenue, DF Homes. And the another resource person we have is Ricky Allen Molinar, or Teacher Ricky, also an occupational therapy consultant at KidSpot. And he is the inspiration for Doobie's therapists that you see on the pages of the comic. So here are Teacher Dada and Teacher Ricky.
Hello po, good afternoon. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you for being here and for sharing.
So let's share their presentation.
And let's start. Teacher Dada, I think we can present the video.
Yeah, we prepared something for everybody in terms of well, us. It was basically us, Teacher Ricky and I, talking about the book and some tips, insights on how you may interact with persons with autism better, more effectively, more successfully. So here, that's all.
Hi, my name is Teacher Dada and I am an occupational therapy consultant at KidSpot Learning and Therapy Center in Parañaque. Now today, I was invited by Mommy Bambi and Daddy Olan together with Teacher Ricky to talk to you more about Doobiedoo Asks and about persons with autism. Now, let me just say that I was privileged enough to read Doobiedoo Asks before it was published. Mommy Bambi and Daddy Olin sent us a copy so that we could see it, give our thoughts about it, and I must say it's one of the books that I would definitely recommend to other families who have children with special needs as well as to my students who are studying occupational therapy. It's a semi-autobiography about their adventures and misadventures with Doobie, a child diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Now, there is so much more to a child than just having this connotation, itong label that they have autism spectrum disorder, and that is what we want to share with you today, kami ni Teacher Ricky. Now, let's talk about disability first. Now, disability comes in many forms. It may come in the form of a physical disability, a psychosocial disability, emotional disability, and a developmental. So, in this case, autism spectrum disorder falls under the neurodevelopmental group or cluster of disability, of disorders. Now, when a person has been diagnosed with a condition, it doesn't necessarily mean that another person who has been diagnosed with the same condition presents with the same signs and symptoms. Now, this means that one child with autism spectrum disorder is different from another child with autism spectrum disorder. Now, as I've said, disability comes in many forms, and one of the most common form in childhood are your neurodevelopmental conditions. Now, collectively, your neurodevelopmental conditions is a group of disorders that manifest early in a child's life and is characterized by developmental delays and deficits that may affect his or her school performance, social interaction, social participation, and participation and performance in everyday living or in everyday activities such as self-care, such as in play. Now, some of these disorders may even exist together. Okay? They may exist with one another, along with one another, and co-occur. So that means that a child with autism spectrum disorder may have other comorbid disorders such as learning disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, let me transfer you to Teacher Ricky as he explains to us what autism is and what we can observe in children with autism.
Alright, so good afternoon. So I'm Teacher Ricky. I'm an occupational therapist consultant in KidSpot Learning and Therapy Center. So for this part of the program, we'll be talking about the things that we need to understand when interacting with persons with autism, or PWAs as we call them. So ano ba yung mga dapat nating tandaan kapag nakikipag-interact with PWAs? So dapat ba matakot tayo kasi they have tendencies of showing aggressive or extreme behaviors? Dapat pa umiwas na lang tayo kasi mahirap sila kausap and at the same time they show weird behaviors? Or dapat ba lumayo na lang tayo kasi ayun nga, they are tagged as may autism? So for this afternoon, we'll be talking about the things that we can improve on, learn on to further understand their condition, as well as to further improve how we interact with them. So when everyone is ready, so let's start. Okay, let's go to number 1. So they are not contagious. They don't grow out of it. So as what Teacher Dada mentioned a while ago, it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. So as you know, developmental. So kasama siya sa paglaki. So it's not a sickness na kaya mong gamutin gamit ang any medications or parang remedy. It's a condition wherein we help them grow rather than heal. So since it's a lifetime condition, may team tayong kasama para tulungan yung kids or people with autism na mag-grow and to reach their full potential in life, as well as ma-achieve yung mga developmental skills na kailangan nila sa different challenges in life. So sino-sino ba yung mga part ng team na yon? So, merong physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, DevPeds, SPED teachers, and even parents. So as you can see, so mention ko as a team kasi we work hand in hand. So kumbaga may contribution kami sa child in order to help him or her grow. Kasi kung occupational therapy lang, may skills na may iwan. Kung SPED teachers lang, may mga skills na hindi ma-address, mahirapan siyang mas makapag-aral at mas makapag-improve on ng mga kailangan niyang aralin sa school. So, ayun. So, since we're a team, so we work hand in hand in addressing the needs of the child as well as we communicate in addressing ano ba yung mga management na pwede namin ibigay. Alright? Okay. For number 2, they feel feelings too. So, ayun. So, people with autism, they are very sensitive with what other people think of them. As well as kung ano yung nakikita nila on other people din. So, they understand and feel emotions. So, when you empathize with them, they're likely to empathize with you also. So, ganun sila. Medyo sensitive sila when it comes to how other people interact with them. And at the same time, medyo sensitive din sila kung ano ba yung mga actions na nagawa nila with other people. Though, it's not all the same. So, may mga kids with autism or people with autism na may social problem na hindi nila naintindihan na sobra na pala yung nagagawa nilang behavior or kulang. For example, instead of, if they want something, instead of asking, kinukuha na lang na kagad nila. So, yun yung mga stuff na kulang or mga kailangan natin i-improve on na skills. So, dun papasok yung team na mention ko kanina. And then, they think about what other people think of them too. So, tulad nga na sinabi ko kanina, they are very sensitive with what other people think of them. So, more likely, mas mabilis silang magpakita ng emotions depende kung ano yung nakikiisip ng ibang tao sa kanila. They might feel very excited when meeting other people. They might feel very anxious when meeting other people. They might avoid or they might attract other people based on how they want it to be. So, it's all different depending sa kid. So, actually, hindi na mention kanina, kids with autism or people with autism are very unique in their own ways. Okay? Let's proceed for the next one. So, they are also capable of holding and sustaining relationships. So, na-mention ko kanina, nasabi ko na parang dapat ba umiwas lang tayo kasi medyo mahirap sila kausap. At the same time, medyo weird behavior nila. So, even though nandun yung mga problems na yun, nandun yung mga behaviors na yun, nandun yung mga lacking skills na yun, they can sustain and form relationships with other people. It may be difficult, but doesn't mean that it's impossible. So, may mga kids with autism na they only open up kapag nakuha na nila yung trust ng other people kasi they are very anxious when interacting with other people. So there are kids with autism naman na you really have to compromise. You really have to understand them. Kailangan mo maki-interact with them on their own level of interaction so that they can understand you well, or at the same time ikaw yung mag-i-initiate or mag-form ng relationship with them. So ayun ang very crucial sa kids with autism. Sabi nga ni Teacher Kadada, so they are the ones who are more likely to have problems with social behaviors or social skills, even social communication. So, as the people around them, kasi dahil tayo yung mga lagi na nakita, we should be the ones guiding them or helping them or reinforcing the relationships we have with them. So, how do we reinforce? We communicate, understand, and empathize. Empathize, kanina pa natin naririnig yan . So, empathize. So, kailangan natin talaga maintindihan ano yung nafe-feel nila, ano yung gusto nilang sabihin, at ano yung gusto nilang way of interacting with them. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na medyo kulang-kulang sila magsalita or parang hindi sila magsalita, dapat ganun na rin tayo. It's just that we need to make our words simpler. Kailangan lang pag makikipag-usap tayo, baka kailangan mas straightforward. Ibahin natin yung way of questioning natin. ibahin natin yung way of explaining stuff to them. So, empathizing with them, it means that we are reinforcing the relationship we have for them. Okay, so yun. Empathize kasi sila medyo tricky sila eh. Alam niyo naman yun. So, they show a lot of behaviors na bago sa mata natin. So, we really need to understand ano yung gusto nilang ipaintindi sa atin. At ano yung gusto nilang sabihin sa atin. Alright, next. The way they behave is their way of communicating. So, as what was mentioned earlier, they have problems in social communication. So, some of the words that they want to express, some of the thoughts or feelings they want to express, they show it through actions. So, paano ba natin makikita through actions yun? For example, they're feeling sobrang happy. So, binilhan nyo siya ng favorite niyang toy or parang kumain siya ng favorite food. So, he might show it through excessive clapping, constant smiling, excessive jumping, or hugging you, or showing a general cheerful behavior. So, ano pa ba? Aside from that, paano pag they're not feeling comfortable with the current situation? They might show it through feeling agitated. Lakad sila ng lakad o malayo na sila, or parang resistive na sila kapag tinatawag mo sila, or doon na pumapasok pag lumalabas na yung mga actions na kailangan nila to calm themselves in certain situations. So, they have actions to help them focus or calm down in certain situations. So, ano ba yung mga possible actions na yun? So, pwede may other kids na nagpe-press sa hands sila to help them relax. May other kids na nagre-ringing ng hands. May other kids na tumatayo na, starts walking, asking to move. May other kids naman na covering their ears. May other kids rin naman na just simply showing na general behavior na they're not happy by slouching or move facing away. So, marami pang other behaviors sa actions na pinapakita ng kid. Depende on how they want to show it. So, nabanggit nga nila, they are unique. So, they have their own actions and ways of expressing their thoughts and feelings. So, ayun. So, when it comes to that, medyo complicated isipin kasi they have their own ways of interacting. So, paiba-iba yung actions, hindi yan kumbaga pag nag-clap siya, masaya na kagad siya. Possible, nagka-clap siya kasi gusto niya mag-calm down kasi nariramdaman niya na yung force hands niya, nakapag-relax siya doon. So, when it comes to that, we just need to be extra patient when interacting with them. When handling their behavior, we need to be extra patient. Kasi yung actions nila, it might be positive or negative. So, we need patience to really understand what they're going through. At the same time, what can we do to help them in that situation? Okay, last. So, they can be first in the finish line too. So, what do I mean by when it comes to being first in the finish line? So, it means that they can also be number one. They can also win. They can also compete. And they can also achieve in their own little ways. So, for example, let's put it in a simple example. So, for example, there's a child who has difficulty playing along with other kids. He doesn't like sharing his toys, wherein, nangyayari, other kids doesn't like to play with him na lang. And then, but when it comes to school tasks, he can easily memorize the alphabet. He can easily memorize the numbers. He can easily memorize the flags. He can easily name each country. He can easily name each planet on the solar system. So in that little way, he can achieve a skill that is competing with other kids. So other kids might find it very difficult to memorize each flag of around the world. Other kids may have or may be confused when naming the planets of our solar system. So in that small, basic, simple way, a child can achieve in his own little way. Anyway, next one. What if the child is having a difficult time in answering a math question? So he has a difficult time when answering a simple multiplication problem, but he has a good memory skills in memorizing an English poem. So he can easily memorize an English poem in one sitting. He can easily recall lines from the book in one sitting. So in that little way, they can show skills that are competing with other kids or achieving the same with normal and typical developing kids. So, as what I mentioned earlier, they're skillful and talented. So, we have a term in our practice wherein we call it splinter skills. So, these are skills that are above average that some kids with autism or people with autism have. So, let's give it an example. I saw a kid during in my college days that he has difficulty talking. He has difficulty providing or expressing words. He has difficulty in expressing his thoughts, his needs. But when it comes to playing piano, he's really good at it. He can easily memorize notes. He can easily play the piano well with his fingers. So in that own little way, it shows his splinter skills or skills that above average based on their age. So what else? So it can be seen in academics, it can be seen through sports, it can be seen through art, through music, through dancing.
Okay, so I think yun lang mga kailangan natin pag-usapan for today. Always remember lang to be more patient, understanding, and try to provide more help that you can give to guide them in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Teacher Ricky, for sharing those thoughts with us about children or persons with autism. Now, let me just give you some insight on how typically developing people can interact with persons with disability more effectively and more successfully. Ayan, so the first one is that there are no two persons with autism that are alike. Now, sinabi ko siya kanina at the start na despite being diagnosed with the same neurodevelopmental condition such as, let's say, autism, doesn't necessarily mean na pareho sila ng pinipresent na behavior, pareho sila ng characteristics, and pareho sila ng developmental level. So, nag-iiba-iba siya. Now, when you interact with a child or with a person with autism, that's one thing that you have to remember. Na yung idea mo of autism in your mind may not apply to this person. Yung na-observe mo dati na child with autism may not be similar to this child with autism that you're interacting at present. So, iba-iba siya. And that is one thing that you have to remember at the start. Na hindi mo pwedeng stereotype na this child has autism. Ganito siya, ganyan siya. Ito yung nabasa natin sa Google. Ito yung nakikita natin in movies, in TV shows. Tapos lahat sila pare-pareho. No, it's not like that. And I want everybody to remember that there are no two persons with autism that are alike. Now, the second thing that I want you to remember is that just like us, they also have good days and bad days. So, hindi lang laging rainbows and butterflies and unicorns ang na-experience nila despite not being able to express themselves. So, tulad natin, not every day is as smooth sailing and as problem-free as we want it to be, especially parents who take care of their children with autism. Now, one thing that we can do about it is to understand that it happens na when we see it at the mall, pag nakita natin in public places that they're not really having it, wala talaga, as in kahit anong pagpakalma ng magulang, kahit anong pag-manage ng magulang, hindi talaga, the child is not having it. One thing that we can do out of respect is to not stare. Okay, to not stare at them too much when they're having a bad day or when they are having difficulty expressing themselves. Because it happens. Hindi nila masabing gusto nila, hindi nila ma-express yung sarili nila, and the tendency is for us to mock, the tendency is for us to judge, not just the child but also the family. So, it's one thing that we have to remember, to be understanding that they are having difficulties. Okay, number 3 naman is to be patient. So, as typically developing persons, we have to be more patient in letting them express themselves without getting frustrated. Now, as an occupational therapist working with children with neurodevelopmental disabilities such as autism, we always tell parents to take their time. Take the time to understand, take the time to observe, take the time to really absorb what's happening to their child so that they can interact with them better. Para mas maintindihan nila kung paano mag-respond, kung paano mag-react sa different situations that are happening. So, one thing is to be patient. Now, if you are frustrated, sila rin, okay? Malamang sila rin because they cannot express themselves, hindi nila magawa yung gusto nila, hindi nila masabi yung gusto nilang sabihin. So, what more, diba? What more sila who's having difficulty with interacting and communicating? So, please take the time to listen to them as they try to find the words to communicate with you. Kasi they want to communicate. However, we have to be patient in letting them try to communicate. We have to be more patient in waiting for them to express themselves. Medyo mahirap, yung iba matagal. There are different ways of interacting para sa kanila. They may use different tools to communicate. But on our part, ang magagawa natin talaga is to be patient and to let them express. Let them try, at least, to express themselves. So number 4 is to be mindful of your words and of your facial expressions, yung actions natin. Now, let us not assume that just because they have difficulty expressing themselves or difficulty communicating doesn't mean they cannot understand or they do not observe our words and our expressions. Okay, so they have different ways of communicating. Sa atin naman, on our part, we have to be mindful of how we accept, of how we react to the different behaviors that they are showing. Now, some children with autism have stimming, okay, because of sensory processing disorders. Now, it's so easy for us to react, lalo sa mall, pag nakakita ka ng child na who is having a meltdown. It's so easy for us to react, to respond, or to judge, or to see things na hindi natin napag-isipan. Now, something that I would like to remind everybody, especially those who are neurotypical, tayo, who have no disability, to be mindful of our words, of our actions, kasi hindi lang natin na-hurt yung child, yung person with autism, but also the family. But also the family who is taking care, trying so hard to take care of this person with autism. Now, the last one, number 5, is to learn how to acknowledge and to appreciate yung efforts na tinatry na i-make ng persons with autism. Now, in therapy, we really value micro-improvements. Yung last week, hindi nila kayang gawin na mag-make ng eye contact or to sustain eye contact. This week, parang nag-try, nag-effort sila. Last week, they couldn't sit still for 10 seconds, enough to listen to instructions. Today, they were able to do it. Now, acknowledging, appreciating these efforts would also make these people, to make not just the person with autism feel good, but also the family. You give them some sort of acknowledgement na, Mommy, Daddy, what you're doing is effective at home, no? Meron tayong nakikitang improvement, meron po tayong nakikitang progress, as low and as little as it may be. It's still progress, it's still improvement, and it is something that we should reinforce. Yon, so those are the 5 things that I want you to remember in terms of interacting with persons with autism, persons with disability in general. So it could be any type of disability, any type of difficulty. Pero those 5 things would actually help you establish a better relationship with persons with autism, persons with disability. Now, what I want to remember, you to remember as I end this small talk, is that at the end of the day, all they want and deserve is to be included in the society. So as members of that society that they want to be included in, we are also responsible for making them feel understood, making them feel accepted and included. Now, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Again, I'm Teacher Dada, And together with Teacher Ricky, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about something we are passionate about, and that is interacting, working with persons with autism. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Teacher Dada and Teacher Ricky. And it's really it's really a blessing to be able to bridge that to understanding to others, because it's something that a lot of families and a lot of parents and a lot of people deal with. It's not something that is isolated or as uh, the number of cases uh, aren't as little as it was before, and there's a lot more information, and with information needs re-education in terms of how we actually constantly evolve in terms of dealing with each other. So regardless of disability or not, right? So Bambi and Olan, do you have
Yes.
any questions for Teacher Dada and Teacher Ricky?
Yes, we have prepared some. Go for
Yeah.
it.
Kasi this is on, ano lang, since medyo nagkaka-technical problems tayo. So, kunwari, since nagte-therapy kami kasi, so medyo may idea na kami how. So, yun nga. Ang first question ko is, how early the signs of autism start? And what are the signs that should you be aware of before you start seeking professional help? Because yun yung naging problem namin as in the book. Because diba, there was a...
It took for us kasi, probably also because we are first-time parents. But as you saw in the book, it took several years bago kami nakakuha ng diagnosis. So for
Yes.
people who might be facing something similar, parang what are there to watch out for them to start seeking professional help?
So, I'll start, Teacher Ricky.
Okay.
Sige. Thinking about it or answering it in a more technical approach, ang autism spectrum disorder po kasi, usually, according to DSM-5 or the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 5, ang earliest po that they can be diagnosed if they meet the criteria is at 3 years old. So it's very early. That's why in KidsBot also and in most of the pediatric clinics, we really push for early intervention. So as early as 3 or sometimes meron pong ibang kids who start with us before they turn 2, before they turn 3.
Yes.
Kasi yung iba po, maaga nilang napapansin, maaga ng parents or other people na nanonote yung symptoms. So some of the symptoms that are very common for children with autism would be poor social interaction or communication and yung repetitive and stereotypical behavior. So yun po yung mga red flag na napapansin ng parents or sometimes relatives or other people na siguro po for parents kasi minsan di nila napapansin. Pero for other people, yun yung mga una nilang nakikita. Na they have difficulty expressing themselves. Some of them are nonverbal. They use other ways of communication for communicating, such as using gestures, such as facial expressions, making sounds. And yun nga po, like what I mentioned, yung stereotypical behavior, repetitive behavior, pwedeng speech, pwedeng patterns. So, meron silang fixed routine na if they, parang pag hindi po na-follow yung routine na nakaset na sa mind nila, they have meltdowns. Okay, so, yun po yung some of the red flags maybe that I would, that I could share right now about autism.
In addition, currently we're trying to parang inform parents, and actually hindi lang yung may mga parents ng may children with a disability or parang yung mga parents with typical developing children, in-inform namin sila on the developmental milestones din para at least sila well updated din sila kung ano yung to check on sa kids sila, sa anak nila on as they grow old. So for example, kung by this age, kamusta na ba dapat yung motor ability ni kid? By this age, kamusta na ba dapat yung speech ability ni kid? So ayun yung tinatry namin as early as possible na i-disseminate sa other people. Kasi kapag may knowledge tayo on those basic milestones or skills na pwede nating daanan sa kanilang age, mamonitor natin kung may delay ba si kid, may skill ba na delay siya or may parang red flag ba siyang currently. So doon na natin siya mas na-justify kapag pina-check up na. So ayun lang naman yun.
Do you have anything to add?
Sorry. Okay. Parang session lang natin.
Yes,
Ayun nga, parang feedback
parang
lang.
feedback lang.
So, ayun nga, more on for parents pa rin. Like, kasi for us, syempre, we are fortunate enough to have access to mga SPED, also for therapy for you. Meron ba kayong advice sa mga parents? Kasi we know na dito sa Pilipinas, medyo hindi pantay-pantay, di ba?
Yes po.
That's true.
Hindi pantay ang income, hindi pantay yung sa resources. So for example, kung nasa probinsya ka, they might not have those kinds of services. May advice ba kayo sa mga magulang na yun nga, parang limited yung access? Not by choice, pero parang kasi talagang limited
Yung circumstances po, yes
what
po.
can they do to help? Diba? Kung if they cannot seek help from professionals, can they, yun nga, parang, ano kaya ang magiging nila?
Ayun. So wait lang, ako naman na teacher dado.
Sige, go.
Ayun, so in connection nga mami, ayun, as much as possible nga yung information na binibigay natin is for all kinds of or people in different social classes. So ayun, pero ang one big factor po na currently ngayon na tinatry ngayon sa Philippines is ma-produce yung community-based na rehab. Kumbaga, sila yung nagbibigay ng initiative to reach out to parents kasi sila nga, kumbaga yung mga parents nga na nasa marginalized section or parang nasa provinces na hindi ganun ka accessible yung information and yung knowledge about those kinds of topics. Yun, kumbaga, since yung initiative galing sa other side, galing sa professionals, galing sa government, mas, kumbaga, yung mga hesitant mag-reach out na parents, mas nalalaman at the same time mas natutulungan. So, ang nangyayari, ayun yung, actually yung one initiative na gustong ma-promote kasi nangyayari, once may isang parent doon na parang, oy, effective to, tapos ikakalat na niya on other parents yung ganong kind of services. So, ayun, Teacher Dada.
Yun, sa akin din naman po, I want also parents to first be aware of what to look out for. So, pag nandun na yung awareness na, okay, parang I might need something to assist me in my child's development. I might need somebody to help me with my child's development progress. So, after awareness po is having yung drive to actually look for possible alternatives. Now, automatic po kasi dyan is therapy. Ang i-recommend po ng doctor is therapy. And yes, therapy can be pricey. Tapos, you have to attend it once, twice, for other people thrice. Hindi lang OT, like us. Meron pang other services like speech. Yung iba, nag-physical therapy din. So, I would like also to reiterate lang po what Teacher Ricky said. Kasi we also offer community-based rehabilitation. So, it's one of the practices that we do. Although right now po kasi there has nagkaroon ng pandemic, pero there are programs offering therapy. So those are free therapy services for the indigent population, for those who really cannot afford to attend therapy. And similar to KidSpot, we also provide home programs. Yung iba po, after they seek consultation from the doctor from the therapists and they cannot sustain yung every weekly session, we offer to provide home programs which they can do at home, which the parents can lead and facilitate at home with the guidance of the therapist or with follow-ups with the therapist every few weeks or every few months. So, meron din pong ganong options. Marami pong options. Kailangan lang talaga na ma-open yung mind ng parents na ay hindi lang, pag kailangan ng therapy, hindi lang siya basta mahal, ay magastos. Hindi siya ganun. So, kailangan din po ma-open yung mind nila na ay marami pang options. Hanap tayo ng option that would best fit our needs and the needs of our child.
Yes.
Okay, so because we are now live on all of our pages in Comiket, Secret HQ, PICOF, and Philippine International Comics Festival. So if any of our viewers have any questions for Teacher Daja and Teacher Ricky on how to on autism and on children with autism, please feel free to have your to comment so we can ask. In the meantime, Bambi,
Yes.
maybe you'd like to ask more questions.
Yes. While we're waiting for other people to join in, again, as parents, like you discussed then earlier, sometimes like in public places, in malls, in resorts, we are confronted by, we're nakakaharap tayo ng mga tao na kasi hindi nila naiintindihan.
Yes.
So, and then na-judge kami tayo, di ba? Na yun nga, ba't hindi dinidisiplina yung bata, ganito, ganyan. So, for example, na talagang in a public place, there is really someone like a security guard, mall administration, or whatever, who confronts the parent na, uy, patahimikin niya yung bata or something. Parang, how can we best describe or explain ba yung situation ng child? Kasi syempre, coming from a parent, medyo masakit, diba? Parang, so,
Yes.
parang, and then, when you're in that position, parang ang hirap i-explain. Parang yun na, ang tendency mo is, sige, tatago ko na lang yung anak ko kasi nakakahiya. Sinita ako eh. Diba? Parang as a parent, paano kaya, and in layman's terms, paano naman na-explain kapag yung gano'n, na-confront ka ng gano'ng kaso people?
Ayun, wait lang, sige. Ako muna, Teacher Dada. Ayun,
Go.
First of all, ayun, Mommy, pag kunyari may any instances or ayun nga, nabanggit ko dun sa kanina sa sinabi ko na parang may tendency sila magpakita ng extreme or aggressive behaviors. So, ang unang pwedeng sabihin ay hindi niya intention manakit ng ibang tao. Kumbaga, hindi lang niya alam paano i-express yung nararamdaman niya kasi may nararamdaman siyang uncomfortable feeling. Kumbaga, irritable siya dahil nandito siya or parang may something na ayaw niya na hindi niya lang masabi. Ang nangyayari, ang pinapakita niya, yung aggressive behavior. So, ayun ang unang-una nating pwede sabihin sa mga tao na hindi niya intention manakit. Gusto lang niya ipakita na may something na nagbibigay ng discomfort sa kanya. So, what we can do to tell them is that under control niyo yun kasi nandun kayo sa tabi. And, kumbaga, yung sabi ni Teacher Dada, yung other part is dapat nandun sa education ng other people. Kaya tinatry natin as much as possible is to inform them on how to react din kapag may nakita sila. So, try not to stare, wag natin i-crowd kasi mas makakadagdag lang yun sa nangyayari, mag-escalate lalo yung emotion, mahirapan tayo i-handle or parang mas mahirapan tayo i-tone down yung nangyayari. So, ayun, big part dun, Mommy and Daddy and other viewers is yung information nga and yung knowledge natin on how should we react. So, ayun lang. Kaya keep in mind also, kumbaga pag nangyari yon, Mommy, stand on your foot. Kumbaga, alam niyo naman on how to handle your kid. Kumbaga, gawin niyo lang, wag niyo ikahiya kasi ayun yung alam niyong best way to help him. Basta ang number one na dapat nating isipin is how to help him. So, basta any warnings lang is he doesn't intend to hurt anyone. So yung big part na yon is how can they be informed outside the situation. Kasi 'di ba, recently naman Teacher Dada nagsabi namin before na social media na ang pinaka-platform namin on how to inform everyone. So ayun, so yun lang. Huwag kayo masyadong mag-panic kumbaga on how they will see you. Basta ang important is how you see your child. Kumbaga, how you take care of your child, how you handle the situation, and eventually, pag nakita nilang you can handle it on your own, ipapakita niyo sa kanila na, okay, it's not something bad. Kumbaga, it happens, it's there, it happens, but it's not something bad. So, Teacher Dada.
Yes, to add lang din po to what Teacher Ricky said, kasi maganda yung sinabi niya na everything's under your control and everything's under control in general kasi ang nakakaalam po kung paano i-manage lahat ng meltdowns, lahat ng behavior na pinapresent ng child is kayo. Now, it's actually really hard to explain it when it happens kasi the tendency is defensive. Ang first reaction is defensive eh. Either ang defense is towards the child na hindi ganyan ang anak ko, hindi ano yung kung ano yung naisip niyo, that's not my child. Or I'm a good parent. Hindi ko siya hinahayaang umiyak sa mall, hindi ko siya hinahayaang magwala sa floor habang nagme-meltdown because I don't care about him. So the first thing that you really have to do is to focus on the child. Focus on your son, on your daughter who is having a very difficult time at the moment. And it's actually really hard. Pero one thing din po talaga that I would suggest is to ignore lahat. Kasi marami po yan, mami. Ang hirap mag-educate ng society knowing that there is still this stigma na very, it's out there po. Ang hirap niyang iwasan. Ang hirap na isa-isahin natin sila. So, one thing for parents to give you a sense of peace po, kahit papano when you're out, when you're having difficulty managing whatever's happening to your child, is to focus on your son, your daughter, and ignore everybody else. They don't matter. Kasi their education, the awareness, the acceptance, it will follow. It's just, long shot pa po, it's a long shot. Matagal pa talaga. And we therapists, educators, doctors, parents who advocate for their children with special needs have been trying so hard to end the stigma, have been trying so hard to voice our concerns, to voice our advocacies about our children, about our students with special needs. So yun, while we are doing that, let's focus for parents. Let's just focus on us, yung tayo, our kids, our family, what we do. And now, wag niyo po masyadong masamain kapag hindi niyo siya ma-handle at that moment. That's also one thing we tell parents na, Mommy, Daddy, it happened already or it's happening already. Hindi naman po natin pwedeng, nakatake na lang natin, anak ko, nakakahiya. So, hindi niyo po kasalanan, hindi rin niya kasalanan. It's just something that happens to them. So, don't blame yourself too much kapag maraming nagtitinginan, kapag maraming, nakikita niyo po na parang na-judge na ako ng mga, ang dami nang tumitingin sa amin, nabibidyohan na kami, baka ma-post na kami sa social media. So, disregard everything and focus on the child kasi the child needs you more. The child needs you more at that particular moment.
Yes.
Ayun, I was gonna follow up sana, kaya lang medyo nadaanan nyo rin yung teacher dahil. I was going to ask kung paano kung yung attitude din, bakit kami yung mag-a-adjust? Parang, diba, there are people who are like that, diba? Parang, kasi we're saying na please be more understanding, please be accepting, kaya lang, there are people who are, diba, na parang, bakit ako? Parang, yeah, so, but then yun nga, medyo nag-ano ng teacher dahil that you always keep in mind yung child, that you're doing this for the child, parang, diba, parang, so yun,
Yes.
If you have any more to add to that, teacher Ricky.
And siguro po little by little, the more that they spend more time with the child, hopefully, the more they understand what's happening. Ang hirap din po kasi na, for example, for relatives, they see them once, twice, 3 times a year. Tapos, big events. Talagang events that are hindi naman po unnatural for the child, pero very different. Different from how he is at home, yung setting sa house. So, yun, we just have to, well, number one talaga, is to focus on the child. And syempre, at the back of our minds, strive harder for other people to understand. And if they don't, then we cannot do anything about it. As long, ang sa atin na lang po is we tried to educate them. We tried to make them understand. And if they don't, okay, I'll redirect all my attention, my energy on my son again. And hopefully when it happens, makita nila na, okay, talagang, that's why they're so focused on, let's say, on Doobie. Kasi Doobie really needs my attention, my assistance, my understanding. So with experience po, some relatives din talaga get it over time. Hindi din po siya talaga instant, automatic na,
Yes.
sige, ako na lang mag-a-adjust. Yun. Mahirap po. Kahit relatives, yes, more relatives.
Oh.
Tsaka one big role din kasi in mommy is to advocate for your own child din. Kumbaga,
Yes.
you as a parent, one major role nyo rin is to be an advocate. Kumbaga, aside from accepting your child itself, himself, one big role dun is how you advocate to other people, how you raise your child, how your child is in your family. Kumbaga just simply sharing kung kamusta kayo as a family. Ayun yung somehow one big part para ma-advocate. Kasi nakikita nila, okay, they can function as a family pala. They're happy as a family. So, why should I parang push hate on them? Kumbaga parang gano'n. So, ayun lang. So, kumbaga, focus on forming a positive environment for the family as well as for the child lang. So, yun yung one major parang suggestion na parang kinikip in mind namin lagi.
Because the whole situation changes, no? Because when you're at home, the parents are with their child. It's more controllable. They're more controllable factors because it's in your own space. So even in the story, I'm trying not to give out any spoilers, but the story of Doobiedoo asks, it's starting at home. It starts at home, right?
Yes.
Everything that is controllable in the home. And then now when it comes to shared spaces, that's the school.
Yes.
That's why, there are other challenges. And it always has to deal with how the rules of shared spaces and the rules of public spaces. So I know that there's a recent controversy of a mother with her child with autism in a private resort,
Yes.
and how they were treated. So it's instances like this that, of course, it's sad to hear, it's frustrating to hear, but these are also opportunities to bridge that understanding.
Yes.
Yes, it was a negative experience for the mom and child, but it was a lesson for not just the resort owners, because that's a semi-private space, because you do pay for membership, or you do pay to be there. So when you pay for your space, how does that work when it's still a shared space? How does both for the parent of a child with autism and for somebody who is not who has no awareness on how to behave. So what is a more acceptable behavior, especially when you are faced in a scenario like that?
Actually, we heard about that. The community has been very vocal about it.
Yes.
When it happened, nung lumabas po yun, a lot of parents, a lot of groups, a lot of therapists as well, educators, special educators, were very vocal about their thoughts about what happened. Personally, it was very disheartening. It was actually frustrating, yes, and very disheartening that it still happens, and to that extent. Kasi I believe I read the post, I read the comments, I read the post of the mom. So, on my part, parang I mentioned it in the pre-recorded video that we have to remember that children, just like adults, have good days and bad days. We present different ways of communicating and different ways of coping. So children then, especially children with neurodevelopmental conditions, they might not be able to manage and regulate their emotions on their own. So as I think the mom did a good job in protecting her child. That was the very first thing that she did. In mother's instinct po yun eh, na,
Yes.
okay, I'll just, parang lalayo ko na lang yung anak ko kasi nasasaktan siya, nasasaktan din ako sa mga nangyayari. So I'll just remove my child. Ang isang thing din po na similar to what I mentioned in the pre-recorded video is that children, even with the special needs, are still striving and thriving to be part of the society. Na as typical, neurotypical members of the society, we should be more welcoming. Now, yun nga po, every day is a challenge in terms of educating. And kami, as advocates, we will not stop until, no, we will continue on. We will not stop until at least, not naman everybody, pero at least majority of the population has awareness, has the knowledge of what autism is. Para hindi siya taboo. Kasi the topic is not taboo anymore. It's out there. It's real. It's happening.
Yes.
Okay? A lot of children have it. A lot of children are diagnosed with other different conditions and disorders. So while other people are working hard for their advocacies and educating other people, as neurotypical members of the society, we have to learn that they're still part of it. They want to be part of it. They want to be part of the shared space. Gusto nila maging part of the public area also, of the society, of the community. We should be more accepting.
Yes. And in addition, ayun, what was mentioned earlier, mommy, so kumbaga being an advocate, so nakita niyo po yung first action ni nung mom, nung kid after the incident is to voice out. Kumbaga, it's to really share her experience on what happened. So, yun. So, kung nakita niyo naman, mixed effect. Kumbaga, mas maraming nagalit. So, pero, ayun, one thing that we should learn about that is that we should not thrive on hate. Kumbaga, nandun yung hate. Kumbaga, we were disheartened, we were very stressed about what happened, but, kumbaga, don't give parang fuel to the fire. Andyan yung hate, call out the person, inform other people that ganito pala dito, but focus more on ano ba yung mga PWD friendly na pwede ko pagpuntahan. So kumbaga, instead of closing your mind na parang, ay, kailangan ayusin ko to, open your eyes na lang to other opportunities for your child. Other places na kumbaga kung saan mas makakaroon kayo ng better experiences. So, more accepting sa ganong scenarios. So, ayun. So, mas magiging peaceful. Kumbaga, mas magiging okay yung general environment natin or community natin towards that. So,
response to what happened, of course, because social media makes it easier for everyone's opinion to be heard. And it also showed the community. Is it right to say the community? Let's call it the community of informed people who also responded on, of course, in different levels of emotion, but who also responded that, these are the advocates, as you mentioned a while ago. And I think what is common to people with advocacies is that they are more accepting of other people's advocacies, because what everybody is trying to fight for is safe spaces.
yes.
So if you are, and we can, of course, our opinions do matter, and building that space by declaring that this is a safe space, declaring that I am a safe space. So because I am informed of what to do, of how to behave, and how to it's creating better spaces, for better, safer spaces for everyone. And that, I think, is the fight. That is the what we're trying to build. And
Exactly.
and that is and Doobiedoo Asks is a tool to to take it one step forward to building those safe spaces, so that we don't need to to feel unprotected. We don't need to feel that we have to fight. I mean,
Yes.
we just want to, to just breathe and to just be happy and live our happy lives, diba? So
I'd actually like to say something about it. I'm very proud din talaga of Mommy Bambi and Daddy Olan for putting their story out there. It's not easy to divulge such information, such experiences. Not all experiences are positive. If you read the comic book, I hope everybody's watching gets your copy. I have mine already. I have mine. So I hope everybody gets to read it because it's happening. It's happening to everybody. It's yung reality. And you, mommy and daddy, sharing it to everybody, opening your experiences, exposing Doobie to everybody is very courageous. Ang galing po talaga. And ang ganda ng pagkakasulat, pagkakagawa ng comic book kasi hindi lang siya yung sharing your story. It's actually also advocating for your child and for other
Yes.
children who have the same experiences as well as families. Yung families din po who have the same experiences. Yung misadventures and adventures nga like what I said in the video.
Ayun.
Share lang ako ng a little behind the scenes secret. Nung kinuwento ko sa kanya na yun nga, I heard that there was kickoff and I wanted to share our story. Actually, ayaw niya. Because kasi di ba as a parent, ayaw niya kasi yung katulad din yung na-discuss natin earlier, as a parent, your first instinct kasi is to protect the child.
Yes.
So he was thinking, hindi, ayaw kong paalam to sa bakit natin parang isisiwalat, parang ayaw kong ma-expose siya. Pero for me kasi parang because of hindi pa nangyayari kasi it was a few years before, but with the recent incident that happened now, I saw kasi the need na yun nga, kulang pa ng awareness, kulang pa ng understanding na yun nga. They have to live in a society na hindi para sa kanila. The society is built for us, typical people.
Yes.
So parang in the same way na, for example, you see a person with a wheelchair, tulungan mo siya, naturally gagawa ka ng ramp. So parang, di ba, parang, na ngayon parang you have to be wheelchair friendly. Sana ganun din sa people who have a disability na hindi ganun ka-apparent. Parang sana makarating tayo sa goal din na gano'n. Parang yung end goal.
Yes.
And I am hoping now with the ganun na, it's a little, it might be a little drop, a ripple in the pond. Pero sana it starts something.
Well, on my defense, because it's not negative. It's more on kasi nag-stuck sa akin yung sinabi nung deathbed namin when we were going through the interviews. Ang sinabi niya sa akin, sa amin is, let Doobie be the one if he wants to share it. That's what stuck to me. So, nung nabasa ko nung pinitch ni Bambi sa akin yung idea, at first, parang medyo bakit? Di ba ito yung sinabi nung deathbed? Bakit tayo yung mag-decide? And then, after reading throughout the script, nagbago naman yung pananaw ko.
Na-convince.
Nagbago naman. So
the way that was written din po kasi hindi siya yung paawa na I have a son with autism.
Because I didn't want na hindi yun yung goal.
Yes, apo. And I think na-reach.
Thank you.
Actually, yun lang, in addition lang, Mommy, one thing na very admirable and very interesting dun sa Doobiedoo Ask is that it came from a perspective of a mom. as well as
Mhm.
nagbibigay siya ng insight sa child. Kumbaga, may communication na nangyayari dun sa story. Hindi siya one-sided, kumbaga. So, actually yun, having handled the real life Doobie for more than a year now. So,
More than a year.
mas kumbaga nagulat ako, ganito pala before. So,
Yes.
mas natuto ako na parang, okay, so, seeing him now, sobrang laki nung na inangat niya na ladder based on how he
And
was
we are
before.
very thankful for you guys.
you were a part of it also. And we also wanted to show that in the book na once you know that he is having issues, you seek help.
Yes,
Kasi
opo.
Yes.
lalo na yung as a parent, yes, you know your child best. Kaya lang,
Yes.
you can only do so much. Diba? Parang it takes a village to raise a child. What more pa a child who has special needs. Parang kailangan mo talaga ng help. And you should seek that help. There is no shame
Yes,
in
yes po.
seeking help.
Yes. That's
Ang
right.
dami rin, mami.
May
Ang daming
stigma kasi.
available.
May stigma din kasi like for us, pag sinabi mo, kailangan niya ng therapy. And then sa atin, may stigma yung word na therapy.
Yes, opo.
Actually.
Until now, yes.
When we were first saying, he goes to therapy, parang some people are saying, bakit? Ba't niya kailangan yun? Diba, parang, because there is a stigma. And we want to show them to people na hindi siya, it doesn't mean that, diba, parang it doesn't mean what you think it means. Diba? Na parang, sana mawala din yung stigma din sa word na yun, for, not just for PWKs, for people who need help, who are seeking help for mental health.
Yes.
In the same way that we go to a medical doctor for physical
exactly.
For
kailangan din natin ng mental health.
Yun nga po yung minention ko that disability comes in many forms. Hindi lang siya yung physical na, okay, naka-wheelchair siya, naka-crutches siya, may cast siya. And so, ang dami rin po talaga. And yes, again, going to therapy, seeking a therapist's help or a doctor's help is still quite unaccepted. Hindi naman po unaccepted, pero misunderstood, I think. Here, not just here in the country, pero in other countries as well. That's why kami po as professionals, we really strive harder to educate, to inform, and to advocate for persons with disabilities, especially those who cannot advocate for themselves, those who cannot defend themselves. Lalo po ngayon, lahat nasa social media na, lahat napopost, lahat yung talagang ang if-front mo is yung happy, if-front mo is yung good days, not really trying to give light or shed light on the bad days and how you can approach those bad days, especially to families who take care of children with special needs.
Yes. So yeah, may mga questions.
Do we have questions
In the
in
chat.
the chat or wala pa?
While I'd just like to share something from CJ Reynaldo,
Okay.
who
Hi, CJ.
Hello.
suddenly posted today. I'll just share that. Where's that? See that? Oh, there it is. I just took a screenshot of a comment, which was he just posted this 26 minutes ago about Doobiedoo Asks.
Oh, wow.
And long post, he made fan art of Doobiedoo Asks comic
Wow.
because it's so
Ganda.
heartwarming,
Thank you, CJ.
informative, and
Wow,
it's extraordinary that you will really enjoy to read it. Doobiedoo Asks is an eye-opening documentary about the parent cooperating into raising their son with autism and breaking stereotypes and myths of autism. They encourage Doobie to build his confidence while they encounter these difficulties. It helps readers of all ages to realize that person with a disability is just. I will have to read the rest because it was a screenshot. It helps readers of all ages to realize that a person with disability is just normal, and they believe that they are capable to see their own unique ability. What's more important for abled people is how you treat PWD equally like everyone else. And what a coincidence, because I am profoundly deaf and I felt so genuine and very related to this story because it actually happened to my parent in real life when I was young. The doctor thought that I had autism, which is not true, but later on, they found out that my ears don't work, or the ears didn't work. They worried about how I might be mistreated or lonely since I was an only child and different from everyone else in the hearing world. Um, Sometimes I used to storm around the room like Doobie did when I felt annoyed or frustrated. A few years later, my family eventually learned how to accept me and developed a better understanding of my disability. My mom used to be a SPED teacher, and she taught kids with disabilities like autism, Down syndrome, etc. She invited me to interact with them, but it was hard to communicate because of my sign language. Instead, we did create some hand gestures to talk this way. I was so grateful for what they have done to me and given me the most wonderful experience in my life. The reason why I'm happy with this is that it totally inspired me to write comics that it is difficult to talk about disability like deafness. Thanks to the writer and illustrator so much for creating such a beautiful book and making PWD heard and seen again. Have a lovely day. So
Thank you, CJ.
what I found very interesting, because CJ is also a comic book creator, and I think he's batch 5 of the workshop. And what I notice is that even if Doobiedoo asks is about high functioning autism, if you change the disability with a different disability, it's still the same response. You need to not judge and understand, right? And make the effort to understand. I think it's also how the general public was educated to respond. That doesn't, maybe it worked in previous generations, like how we're taught in school, how we should all fit in, wear the same uniform, behave the same way, same haircut, etc. That we're trained to just follow and and follow and not stand out, to just follow and be part of the have that common identity. But now that now there are so many different types of people who have different needs and come from different spaces, that it's not about being part of the crowd and forcing people to behave the same way. When we're all wired differently, when we all have different needs, when we all have different learnings, and we all have different, and we learn things in different paces also, diba? It's a different pace. So that's why it is, the story is also very universal. That it's not just about or not limited to autism or high functioning autism, but it's also it can change with whatever issue or challenge or disability. And the response, it's actually our response on what needs to evolve.
To add then, that is why I have a little message in the end also. Na, yun nga, while the story is ours, our experiences, parang one of our goals is to foster understanding among all of us, that we understand each other's differences better. Hopefully, with CJ's response, hopefully parang we were able to achieve that goal a bit.
Okay, so thank you, Teacher Ricky and Teacher Dada, for that. How can you please share where, for example, if there is someone out there who wants to who has a child who could be on the autism spectrum, where can they reach you, or where should they go? How do they first step to ask for help?
And actually, the first step lang is never hesitate to ask your doctors
Yes.
if there's a problem. Kasi based on experience, it usually is parang step by step. So they usually ask the pediatrician, then the pediatrician transfer you to the DepEds, then from the DepEds they're now referred to our services. So, paano yun? So, Teacher Dada, can you add?
And so the first thing that we actually recommend if there are parents who inquire, for example, in our clinic, is if they have a referral from a developmental pediatrician. And if not, we give them numbers, we give them contacts to available developmental pediatricians. And once they are recommended from for therapy, for OT, or for speech, or for other services, support services, that's when we schedule them for initial evaluation. So that would be a more comprehensive evaluation of the skills that we look into. So for example, it's different for OT and different for speech. And then we collaborate and work with the parents to create the goals. Now, if you are in Parañaque, in the Parañaque area or Las Piñas area, you may contact us at KidSpot Learning and Therapy Center. But there are also a lot of clinics, a lot of institutions offering services, support services for your children with special needs. All you have to do is to search for them on Facebook. Like for Samin, we are available on Facebook or Instagram. Bilis na siyang mahanap ngayon, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a question from Alpha January Yang Kabakang Crisostomo. And she says, good day. I have a relative who has a child diagnosed with autism. Whenever we meet at gatherings, the kid would often display unusual actions to my children. As a mom, how can I explain it to my sons properly? And should I also address this to the child's mom as well? Thanks and God bless.
Yes, yun. Actually, first step niyan is addressing it to the child's mom first. Kasi mas mahirap mag-explain kung other mom yung nakikipag-usap sa'yo. So, basically, you talk to their parents first, inform them, kumbaga, give them knowledge on how your son presents his behavior, and then eventually, let them explain it to their child. So, ayan. And when explaining it to their child, so, yun lang. Kailangan lang talaga as early as possible ma-enlighten or ma-open eyes sila na there are other kids who have special needs. Kumbaga, they are not the ones na may lacking skills, but they are the ones who have a little bit, kumbaga, kailangan lang ng special na attention or parang special way of interacting to really open up their hearts to other people. So, ayun, when kumbaga addressing it to other kids, try to inform them as basic as possible. So, kaya may tagline kami as parang they have special needs kasi mahirapan pa intindihin yung mga kids na there's a thing called autism, there's a thing called ADHD. So, we try to explain to them as basic and as specific as straightforward as possible on bakit ganun. Kumbaga, he shows this behavior because he's just feeling very happy. Kumbaga, laging may cause and effect. So, he's like this because he's just feeling like this. So, and Teacher Dada.
So, I think yung, in terms of addressing to the child's mom as well, one thing that this mom can do is to support as a fellow mother that okay, my child might not have autism like your child, pero I understand na sometimes hindi talaga okay, sometimes hindi talaga good day, sometimes meron talagang meltdowns na nangyayari. So that's one thing to do to support the other mom. Tell her na I understand, don't worry about it. I'm not judging you, your parenting skills, parenting style. And yung pag-address sa child niya, sa anak niya, is to just like what Charity said, in as basic as possible. He cannot express himself. Hindi niya kasi masabi yung gusto niya eh. Kaya siya maybe nagwawala, umiiyak, shouting. He wants something pero hindi niya ma-point out kung ano yon. Yun yung mga ways of how to explain it to other children also. To not overcomplicate things, to not use big words to children, especially children who are asking, Mommy, why is he crying? Bakit siya iyak ng iyak? Bakit siya naglilik ng fingers? So, to explain it as basic as possible. he's seeking something kasi may hinahanap siya na sensation on his fingers, meron siyang hinahanap na sensation sa body, meron siyang gustong makuha na kaso hindi natin malaman kasi hindi natin maintindihan yung sinasabi niya. So let's just wait for him to calm down, or maybe we can try asking him, maybe he can express it, maybe he can tell us. So as simple as possible, not to overcomplicate things. Kasi ang hirap lalo na tayo hindi natin naiintindihan as adults yung nangyayari. Paano pa yung kids who really have no idea about it, about what's happening?
Merong nag-add dito sa chat na, yun na, in addition daw, please use appropriate and socially acceptable words in explaining it to other kids. This is from Miss Frances Victoria. So, that's true kasi sometimes there are certain labels na magbibigay ng kulay. Diba? So, parang let's try to avoid that na just an example, no offense to anyone, parang wag mong sabihin na kasi abnormal siya. Diba parang negative kagad. So, and then it will form something on the child's mind. Ngayon ako, by experience na, isa lang yung child namin, pero we get exposed syempre to other children when we're at school and we're at the center, like that. Sometimes kids will ask, why is he like this? Parang, but the difference is, mas accepting sila. Sometimes, ina-accept lang nila na gano'n. Like for example, why is he covering his ears? And then you say, he feels uncomfortable with loud noises. Okay na sa kanila. Okay, sige, laro na tayo. Friends na tayo ulit. But parang, children are more simple and not simple in a bad way, pero mas accepting sila. Diba? Parang hindi na nila, ganun siya eh. Parang mas ina-accept nila na, okay, ganun siya. They don't need then sometimes explanation to, hindi kasi he doesn't like loud noises kasi meron siyang sensory like this, like that. Parang wag mo nang i-explain yung gano'n. Parang okay na sila doon. Parang okay, sige, ayaw na yun. Okay, sige, friends na kapalit.
Yes, to children po kasi, ganyan. Friends lang po kami. Bakit yung friend ko? Why is he crying? Sige, I'll let him cry first. Okay, mamaya lalapit din siya sa akin. Yung ganun po. Playmates pa rin sila eh. Hindi nila magigets na something is wrong. He's having a meltdown, sensory meltdown. He's having this and that difficulty. To them po, at that moment, na-furious sila kasi na-disrupt yung play nila. Disrupt yung interaction. And then, eventually, when they meet again, the following week, for example, the next day, wala na. It's as if nothing happened. So, explain it as simple as as you can, as basic as you can.
Yes.
Yes, and Francis also mentioned that this is the best instance to teach empathy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's actually another life skill that we will need, especially that the world is changing. It's not about again, it's not about being the same or treating everybody, expecting everyone to be the same as everybody else. But we all have our own identities, our own personalities, and our own experiences. Okay, so thank you, Teacher Dada and Teacher Ricky, for that. Thank you for sharing your time. And
anytime. Our pleasure. It's our pleasure to be here and actually speak about it. To speak about something that we are passionate about.
Yes.
And if to all of those who are watching us right now, if you weren't able to catch Teacher Dada's and Teacher Ricky's talk earlier, this online book launch is recorded, so you can always go back and watch the video after.
And I am encouraging everyone to please watch their talk kasi it's very informative and very timely.
Okay, so our the next part of our book launch is we'll have it's a special treat to see Olan and how he was hard at work making the pages of and bringing Doobiedoo Asks to life. No? Yes.
Hi, my name is Teacher Dad.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roland Amago, and I am the illustrator for the book Doobiedoo Asks. Doobiedoo Asks is a book based on our family's experiences with autism, while wherein we shared some of our struggles, hardships, and most importantly, our triumphs. In choosing an art style for the book, I kept in mind Bambi's goal. It is a book that shares knowledge about autism that both parents and children would enjoy. So I took inspiration from anime, particularly the vast collection of titles that deals with family-oriented drama. Also, this is an art style that I'm very much comfortable with. Here are some of the early design sketches I made for the book when we were still pitching it to the pickoff committee. And there, as you can see, it's different from the ones that were printed. And here are some of the book cover concepts that I made, still different from the ones that were printed also. So, with the complexity of the topic and the level of detail of Bambi's writing, I complemented it with more light-hearted visuals, paying less attention to line work, complex designs, and drawing techniques, and concentrated instead on the use of color to dictate the mood of their story. And here are some of the inside pages of the actual book. Mhm. There. And now here is an artwork I did for this book launch. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. The idea behind this artwork is to show that my son can easily connect with animals rather than children of his age. He's more comfortable around them. Uh, yeah. And as a bonus, let me introduce you to Action Lotto. He's one of the superhero characters that the family in this world is really fond of. Little trivia for this: Action Lotto is actually designed by my son, which I borrowed, to say the least, and from and yeah. So there, my son wanted to show his version, and he made an artwork for you guys. Yeah, yeah. So that's all. I guess. Thank you everyone for your time. Do please give our book Doobiedoo Ask a try. And for those who already bought the book, we hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. We are very thankful for your support. For those interested, please visit Comiket FB page for details on how to order. So also, while you're there, Doobiedoo Ask is just one of 10 Peak of 2020 titles. Another book which is already out today is Little Wolf by Katz. Please do check it out. It's an amazing book. And for the other titles, do follow Comiket for updates on that. And besides the pick-off books, there are tons of titles from our local creators. Please do check them out while you're there. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so it's always such a joy to see how how an yeah, tama si Rome. Congratulations, Bambi and Roland. It's such an achievement to first get the book done, because it takes a lot of time, effort, and talent to see through it, from the pitch to the storyline to the rough sketches down to the final artwork. And it's also been a journey for you. And I think what was great was being able to watch the two of you do the work, and see how the work gets better and better until it was ready for printing, right? So congratulations to that. And I are there how of course let's we're down to the last 5 minutes of our online book launch. How was it for Bambi once once Olen was already drawing it? Was it how you imagined it? How close was it to how you imagined it, or was it did it actually grow even better?
Because we've been working so long na together, at this point, parang wala na akong expectation. And this is not a bad thing. Parang wala na akong ano dun sa work niya. Parang ganun na yung level of trust between us na after I turn over the script, parang I know that he can improve upon it. Nasa ganun na level na kami. And then, kasi coming from a very different style from the Carnal books, this was parang napaka-refreshing makita because it's a different use of colors. I'm familiar, of course, with his anime style because manga style. Kasi parang yun yung pinaka-comfort zone niya with regards to art. Pero yung use niya ng colors dito is something else really na, yes, it did surprise me. And then natuwa ako because there are, if you guys have a copy of the book, yung mga ginawa niyang mga visual metaphor, na I think is talagang mahirap kasi if you see the script, parang dialogue lang kasi talaga siya. Na yun nga, parang very sparse kasi yung descriptions ko when I wrote this particular script. And then talaga kasi I wanted him to be in a way like a film director. Na yun nga, ilagay mo yung vision mo doon and it's a very pleasant surprise na napakaganda ng mga nagawa niyang metaphor na it really, really helped the story along.
Actually, that's one of the things that I enjoyed reading as well in the book. Not just a story, but the visual metaphors and the illustrations that could convey, the confusion, convey the struggle. It conveys the feeling, even if it's in just one frame. And to me, that one was a joy to read and to experience, because you don't usually find that in most comic books that we have been reading. So it's also something that is refreshing to see.
So if I gave him any direction in that, there are certain scenes where even though I was narrating, I wanted the reader to have the impression na nakikita o nararamdaman nila yung nararamdaman ng bata. Na yung kunyari, maingay ngayon sa assembly ng school. So I wanted them to see visually na parang ito yung visually feeling na na-overwhelm ako sa ingay. Gano'n, na ano ako kasi pinagsasabihan ako na hindi ko naiintindihan bakit ako pinagsasabihan. So parang na-translate niya yung mga feeling, yung emotions ng bata doon sa mga particular pages na, and with the use of the color again to set the mood doon sa mga scenes na yun.
And we have one comment here from Jeffrey Campis. Question to imagination. Any plans for follow-up story or stories under the Doobiedoo series?
Well, yung for Doobiedoo's and the family story as a whole, wala kaming balak for now. But ang kinatutuwa namin actually is parang we want to do a spin-off series featuring si Action Local. Because, well, one, kasi maraming nasulat na story yung anak namin. Gusto namin i-adapt. And kasi we want to try naman to write for kids. To produce a comic book for children naman. So parang gusto namin goal is we want to make a superhero comic. And then, we want to, basically, from this universe, we want to have a spin-off of Action Letter. Hopefully, we will be able to do it. Pero for the family, for now, I know that there are people who are asking when is the part 3. And yes, there are still a lot of stories kasi patuloy pa rin yung buhay namin. Pero for now, parang wala kaming na-focus.
But that's a good sign, because those who read the book are asking for more. That's the dilemma of most comic book creators. But at least that's still a good sign, no? And I hope that could encourage you to continue the Doobiedoo story if you do decide to do it, or a spin-off of the superhero.
I think for me, for me, the Doobiedoo series, if there will be a sequel, I think I would rather have it in the voice naman of Doobie, like Doobiedoo speaks. Kasi I think for the family, it's there na, it's acceptance na. I mean, it would be more fun to hear naman yung side ni Doobie. But again, it will depend on my son if he wants to do that. I think that would be, besides doing sa action model na sinasabi ni Bambi, we really want to try to do that. So more copying from me, from my sons, artworks. It's original.
So one last question, because it's already at 5. But one last question is: do you have a question in terms of the whole pick-off experience, now that you've seen it through to the print, which is a wonderful print by Rex Printers, and yeah, I was happy to be the first one to actually be to get to get a copy. Um, but do you have any questions or any comments or any would you like to share anything about the pick-off experience?
Questions about the pickup experience? Not so much, but we are really looking because we have been privy to seeing little snippets of everybody's work. It's more of like we are really looking forward na ma-complete yung lineup and to see all of the books together. Parang, oh, wow, that would be so spectacular. Kasi, yun nga, parang maybe some people would not pero kasi kami kasi nakita namin yung parang mga preview of all the works in progress, and all of them talaga, all 10 are very, very incredible and spectacular. Parang we are so proud
And honored
to be part of this lineup talaga. And it's just talaga unfortunate na yung pandemic. So, pero yun nga, looking forward to finally have a physical festival.
Okay, so Doobiedoo Asks is the first of the 10 books of the all our official selections of the Philippine International Comics Festival. We did launch a online version of the festival, but the physical festival we hope to have it in September 2021, and hopefully by then we have all of the 10 books together, you know. so so the other creators has more time than just less than a year to do their work, no, but at least now they have like 2 years to do their work.
Yes.
Little Wolf is also out already, published as well, so that's the second book, and we're just in the final stages for Alandal, Twinkle Twinkle, and Third World Power. So if to everyone who's watching, please do support all of the 10 titles. Every purchase, not only, of course, our authors own the rights to the work, and they get a percentage of this every sale, but all of each purchase of the book helps print and publish the rest of the 10 and future batches of the pick-off. So that's one of the opportunities of being part of an NGO. This is part of our advocacy to grow the readership of Filipino comics. So, and that starts with having to be a more active publisher. So and this is the first batch, which we're very proud of. So thank you, Bambi and Olan, for the wonderful work, and also for trusting Comiket and Pickoff to launch your book.
I'd just like to add, I want to add lang for other comic book creators to join the next batches of Pickoff. Because as a creator, what we went through, yes, it's hard, but it will definitely make you into a better artist, into a better creator. Yung process na, like for example, na sa atin kasi, di ba, when you say revisions, parang, oh, it's a hated word. Pero, you know, di ba, parang, oh no, I don't want to, pero the whole process, and if you pour your hard work into it, parang the end result is, oh my God, much improved work. I am proud to say na parang this is the best work we've put out so far. And this is what Pickoff has helped us to be as creators. So I am encouraging everyone to please join the next batches of Pickoff.
Thank you, Bambi, for the kind words. And but and para tuloy parang when you hear the word revisions, no, there's nothing wrong with my work. My work.
Diba? Parang, pero the process will help you see na parang, yun nga, ay may kakayanin pa pala. Meron pa palang ikabubuti. Diba? Parang we shouldn't treat it as, oh no, I don't want to, diba? I don't want to rise. My work is perfect as it is. It will help you get over this attitude and come out as a better creator in the process.
Yeah, and it's very different to just independently write and create your work and have an outside perspective, have an editor or a creative director to point or shed light on certain things. So thank you also for the trust, and I'm very proud of
Thank you.
of the work that you put out, and as I've told the both of you, and I've told all of the 10 finalists of the official selection of the pick-off, that you all deserve more readers. Thank you, and thank you everyone who's watching.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
And see you at the festival. Thanks. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Ay, sorry.